My name is Willy Bolander. I study influence, persuasion, and leadership in selling and sales management, and I teach people how to sell. In this podcast, we'll talk to some of the world's top sales leaders and see what we can learn from them. Welcome to the Sales Lab. Many of you remember a few weeks ago, John Crossman was the guest on the Sales Lab podcast. And with his company, Crossman Career Builders, he is also the sponsor of today's episode. Specifically, we want you guys to go check out this book, Career Killers and Career Builders, the book every millennial needs to read. I've also read it. A couple really great things I'd like to mention about this. One, it's not like an academic textbook, right? I sometimes describe textbooks as books that are written to be bought but not read. That's not what this book is. This book is meant to be read. It's a very easy read. Let's see, 120, 130 something pages it looks like. I'll tell you one of the stories I love in here is, I'll just read it to you. Page 71. Years ago, a young man came to see me who was deciding whether to attend graduate school at the University of Florida. I met with him for a little while, but couldn't stay very long because my family and I were moving to a new home that weekend. Later that day, he emailed me. He wrote, "Mr. Crossman, thanks for meeting with me. You said you're moving this weekend. Do you need any help?" I thought, wow, this kid's impressive. That was Whitaker. I declined his move-in offer, but I went on to hire him, and he enjoyed an extremely successful career. But what I saw in him in those first moments was a young man who was asking me for something, but at the same time was trying like crazy to give me something in return. And he did so in a completely genuine way. Needless to say, he left a great first impression. And obviously, we talk a lot about mentorship on the show, and the idea that mentorship is a two-way street has probably come up on a variety of occasions. And I think that's a great example, right? You might not be able to help them run their business yet. You might have a lot to learn before you can really add value in a sophisticated way, but there's other ways to add value. What can you do? What can you help with, right? Find something you can do that justifies this mentor, this prospective mentor, spending time with you. What a great story. So if you go to thesaleslab.org, go to the recommended readings and scroll down, you will find John's book, Career Killers, Career Builders, available there, linked. Click on it, pick it up. Portion of the purchase will go to help promote and produce additional episodes of the Sales Lab. So we appreciate that. And really, I think we just need to get this book in the hands of anybody, especially college kids about to graduate or early career sales professionals. Thanks. Check it out and enjoy today's episode. All right, we are here with part 3 of our 3-part discussion with Anna Ostrowski from Henry Schein Dental. Really looking forward to closing this one up. This one we've called Teeth Kicked In. Get it? It's kind of a dental pun. Teeth. Pretty clever. We'll talk a little bit about objective success and subjective failure. The idea that sales, sometimes it's a really psychologically unpleasant way to win, right? You might be making the money you want. You might be meeting your company's objectives and expectations, but you're still taking a beating while getting all that done, right? We'll talk about the importance of celebrating the small wins, identifying what fills your cup and is going to keep you going. And interestingly, this is a topic that really keeps coming up this season, the importance of informality, being informal yet professional. Interesting idea. I'll remind you, if you have not liked and subscribed and followed us on all the social media outlets, we'd really appreciate it. Facebook, LinkedIn, click on YouTube, ring the bell so you get notifications, all of that would be a big help. I'll also remind you, we have the book recommendations from every single one of the Sales Lab guests thus far, available, linked for your ease from the saleslab.org website. So make sure you check that out. And thanks again for tuning in. Hope you get something out of it. Let me come back to something you were talking about earlier, because I talked to my sales management students about this. We kind of start with first week or two is on the subject of self-management. I kind of tell them, before you start getting too high up on your horse and wanting to manage other people, we should probably talk about some self-management stuff.
Oh, I love that.
And we talk, time management, just some basic sort of covey kind of stuff. But one of the things that we get to is this idea of coping with performance failure. And it's maybe I shouldn't even say performance failure. Maybe I should say the perception that you're failing.
Yes.
Because we kind of play with this idea that, objectively, you could be doing really, really well. You could be objectively successful, right? Meaning you're hitting your performance goals and your boss is happy and your paycheck is good and healthy, and maybe you're tracking for President's Club or Chairman's Club or whatever your organization calls that thing that all organizations do.
Yep.
And everybody that looks at your record on paper says, man, you're killing it, you're doing great. But the fact still remains that 80% of your day on any given day is spent being told no, being told, no, I don't have time to talk to you. You're not even worth words to me. I can't even give you 5 minutes. And that you can be objectively successful and at the same time feel overwhelmingly unsuccessful. And maybe the best analogy, or at least the best analogy I can come up with, is kind of like, like a UFC fighter or something, right? Where you might have won the championship, but if you broke all your fingers and collapsed an eye socket and have 8 concussions, boy, that feels like a real tough way to win. They raise your hand and they say, you're the champion. You go, I don't care anymore. I can't even see straight. Just let me go to the hospital, right?
I like that.
And I wonder how people deal with that, how companies encourage people to deal with that. And I've had graduates that have gone and worked for companies and hit these impressive performance thresholds, these Chairman's Club levels, in a matter of 6 to 9 months, where historically it's taken people like 10 years to get to that level. And you think, wow, they're really making a great career. They're going to stick at this company for decades. They're just going to kill it at this company. And then a week later, they not only stop working at that job, but I had one that just straight up disappeared. Nobody could find her for like 3 months.
What?
And we finally found out she just said, you know what, I hit this Chairman's Club level. It's what I wanted to do. And when I accomplished it, I realized that's not what I wanted to do. That in my hand wasn't what I needed. Okay, well, wow. Okay, because, and it wasn't even like the company told her she needed to hit Chairman's Club in 9 months. It was like that was her personal goal. And then she, got to the mountaintop and went, yeah, I guess I don't really like this mountaintop after all that. So, and I don't know exactly why that person did what she did, but I kind of attribute it to this failure, success, the way you perceive things kind of predicament that, her company was telling her, hey, we're going to send you on a nice trip and you're going to make lots of money. But inside she was probably feeling like, oh, I just got my teeth kicked in. This is a really psychologically unpleasant way to win.
Definitely. And I've felt that and I've seen it. 3 things come to my mind. Is one thing that I really try working on. Most people that are like that are also very hard on themselves. And they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, which I appreciate the hustle, but you cannot forget to celebrate the small wins. And so you have to have some sort of outlet when you are getting your teeth kicked in. You have to be able to take that time and process how you're feeling. And so I'll give you an example of what I do. So my outlet when I was in the field, there are donut shops on every dang corner in Texas, which was not a thing in Wisconsin. And I'm obsessed with donuts.
What do you got up there? Shipley? Is it Shipley Donuts?
Yes. I swear to you, every strip mall has a dental office, a nail salon, and a donut shop.
All right.
Every single one. I'm not kidding. If you ever come to Texas, you look. I promise you, that's what every mall is. And it's definitely not like that in Wisconsin. I am a donut freak. And so if I was having a really, really bad day where I was like, I am getting my teeth kicked in, even though, sure, maybe I got one sale or whatever, but this sucks. Kind of just want to go home and call it a day. I would go buy myself a donut. And then I would go to, I cannot believe I'm sharing this story. I would go to either like a Target or like some sort of shaded retail parking lot. And I would put on the song Dancing Queen by Mamma Mia. And I would just let it all out. And I'm like, you know what? I did good on this today and this sucked today, but that's okay. This is my outlet. I'm going to pull myself back together and we're going to do the dang thing. I can't tell you how many times I did that when I first started in sales. So you have to find some sort of outlet to keep yourself going. That's one thing I think of. The other thing I think of is burnout. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, is I definitely did that. I mean, I wasn't hanging out with friends. I wasn't doing anything for myself personally. I had no morning routine. I was not working out as much. It was just work, 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 work. And so, from the outside, it looked like I was crushing it. But inside, I was exhausted. mentally and physically. I wasn't doing anything for myself. I mean, I was not in a good headspace at all. But from the outside, it looked like I was doing fantastic. And so burnout is a real thing. And I am a huge, huge believer in morning routines and moving your body. Huge believer in that. So I would say you have to incorporate that somehow in your day. And the last thing that I think about is you need to understand what fills up your cup. And so there's a difference between liking a job and there's a difference between liking a job and having a job fulfill you. And so I get the question a lot of, Anna, why did you move out of sales into this more of like a corporate or leadership type of role? And I loved my sales job. I mean, I did. I really liked my sales job. I would not be recruiting for it if I didn't like it. That would just be morally wrong. I liked my sales job, but it didn't fulfill me. I didn't fall asleep at night thinking, dang, like I feel like I made an impact today. Or when I was talking about it, my face didn't light up like I thought it would. And I liked my job. I did, but it wasn't fulfilling. And now in the role that I'm in, I feel like my cup is filling up. And so I would argue, I would also challenge if you are starting to feel that way, sit down, take some of that quiet time, which we all hate, but it's so stinking necessary to ask yourself what fills up your cup. And is that what you're doing right now? So those are the things that come to my mind.
So what is it that's different now?
In my role versus where I was before?
Role.
The role that I'm in now, I get to work more on internal things. So the relationships that I built with other people inside of my company, they call me and they tell me, Anna, this is working really well. This isn't working so well. Can you help with it? And so I am able to gain a lot of respect and also use my voice a little bit more to instill change with internal barriers that people that I am really, really close to are having struggles with. And so that is the biggest difference for me is I was able to do that in the field. And that was my favorite part about being in the field is when I did find a challenge and I was able to solve it and work with an office. But the thing is, I wanted to work with them every single day and be in there forever and work on that same project. And it's like, okay, no, Anna, you're not going to be able to survive off the paycheck that you're going to get if you only work with one office and on one project. And so now that I'm in the role that I'm in, I get to focus and become an expert in that area and watch it change other people's lives and make their lives easier out in the field. That's the main difference.
And the new role is what specifically? Training, recruiting, all of that?
All of that. So I'm a sales training recruiting manager. So I do training for everywhere from Wisconsin to Texas over to California. I do training for that half of the country, and then I do recruiting on a national level. And it's only collegiate recruiting.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Good.
So traditionals all go through HR, but all of the students who I just love working with, that's with me.
Yeah, that's great. Mm-hmm. What type of person should come work for Henry Schein? And I guess we haven't exactly specified this, but it should be clear, I think, from the anecdotes and stories and context of the conversation that Henry Schein sells dental products. Yes. Now, are those mostly disposables, or are those mostly like hardware and machinery that would be, more long-term things that would stay in the office?
It is everything. So we sell over 300,000 products, and then we also sell business solutions. And so a doctor, from the time a dentist graduates dental school to the time they retire, they don't have to go anywhere else. We can supply them with literally everything. So the gloves they use, the mask. I don't know if you've ever gotten a text from your dentist before about like an appointment reminder. We provide those solutions. The chair you sit in, the X-ray, everything. So that's what we do at Schein. And the type of person to come and work for us? That's a really good question. I've never been asked that. Most of the time people are like, list them off. I would honestly probably say someone who is willing to run into that fire, like we talked about before, and someone who is informal yet professional.
Well, that sounds kind of provocative. Let me ask you, what does that mean? How can you be informal and professional?
I feel like this, like both of us right now on this interview, wouldn't you argue we're informal yet professional?
I think so, yeah. And it makes a lot of sense to me, but I'm also kind of an oddity, and I'm a professor, so I don't have to behave like a normal functioning human. If I do something weird, people just say, oh yeah, weird, nutty professor stuff over there. That's fine.
Okay.
So, so from your standpoint, so how do you pull that off?
So I think a lot of times when I'm working with new sales reps, they feel this need to be robotic. And like they have to have this script down, and it's so uncomfortable. Like I hate it when we walk into a practice and they're like, I mean, it literally sounds like there's a script behind this person's head and they're reading off of it. And you can tell when they stray away from that script, they get really, really nervous. Like it's very obvious. And because they think, okay, if I follow this word by word, if I do exactly if I quote exactly what my mentor said, I'm going to be successful. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to, yes, be professional and show that respect and walk in there with a certain level of confidence, but you also have to be informal because you're talking to a dang human. I mean, it's like my biggest pet peeve when people are talking to them like they're not an actual person. You are talking, most of the time it's a female at the front desk. You are talking to probably a mother who has a kid around your age. Talk to her about it. You are talking to a human, and it just I know it probably sounds so silly to some people, but I cannot count the number of times where I've walked in with new reps and it's just so awkward because I'm like, you're just having a conversation, guys. Or I'll do role plays with students, like a sales role play, mostly right now via, like a webinar or Zoom. And it's like, I'm like, guys, take a deep breath. I'm literally a person. We're having a conversation. And I will also say with the informal yet professional, that also allows you to find pain points a lot sooner. And that's your job, is to find the pain points and to figure out what you have to offer, what resources you have available to help them overcome those. I mean, that is your job.
And why is it easier to do that when you are being a little informal?
Because they'll talk to you about it. They trust you. You're building
just because you're getting into that personal stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, if I were to walk into your office and say, hi, I'm Anna with Henry Schein. Henry Schein is the #1 dental distributor in the world, and we provide really great business solutions. We've helped over 1 million dentists, and I'd really like the opportunity to sit down with doctor and tell them a little bit more about that. Like the very robotic, and sure, it sounds nice, but how many times have they heard that? Versus if I were to walk in and say, hi, so-and-so, I'm Anna with Henry Schein. Remind me of your name. They say their name. Oh my gosh, I saw on the website that you've been here for X amount of years. You're actually originally from, like, this is where I'm saying I do pre-call planning. I probably sound like a creep, but it's actually worked really well for me. And I'm like, I saw you're originally from New York. Tell me a little bit about how you ended up here, how your experience has been with this doctor, what's on your, I'm asking them questions all about them that were not pre-planned. Yeah. And that ends up, I will tell you, I've had a lot of front desk ladies open up to me about a lot of things going on in the practice when I simply just start out the conversation by being more informal and asking them about them. And it's very easy to start building that relationship then, and they have a lot of control over doctor's schedule. And so if they trust you, if they see that you're able to help them, they're going to think that you can do the same thing with doctor. And that makes them look like a superhero too, right? If I'm able to go back and talk to doctor and I'm able to help with X, Y, and Z that you're telling me about, you're the one who brought me back there. You're the one who made the introduction. That's also making you look really good too, because you're helping. And so informal yet professional is big thing that I push with reps.
Yeah, that's great. No, I like that a lot. And I think this is why I sometimes joke and, ask my students, guess what the worst thing about trying to sell accounting services in Atlanta was? And, they say, I don't know, traffic. I don't know. I say, no. The worst part is that I don't know anything about football. I really don't care about UGA, especially. And so if you don't care about UGA football and you are a salesperson in Atlanta, at least several years ago,
good luck.
You don't have any way to build any rapport. There's nothing else that these people want to talk about. It's like, okay, you into music? You into current events? No, we're into freaking UGA football, man. That's it. That's all we got. Did you see the game on Sunday? I said, dude, I don't even know what season it is. I don't know what game would we be talking about. But it's half joke, but it's kind of true, and if you think historically, these backslapping white male, salespeople, they're very informal.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? They're, hey, did you see the game? Hey, did you see that girl? Hey, did you, these are, it's completely fueled by informality, sometimes in a bad way, but you try to get the bad stuff out and keep the good, you keep the good stuff in there. And there's something, I think you're right. I think there's something true about that. And I think maybe I was talking to Lee again a couple episodes, and he brought up some similar things that, it's probably okay to say dude. It's probably okay to say,
I say girl. I say girl probably way too much, but occasionally I'll say that with the gals at the front.
No, and it's you're truly building friendships, then talk to those people like they're your friends. Don't
Yeah.
talk to them like they're your grandparents at a serious old person of I don't know what
Yes.
grandparents do.
So talk to them like they are at your same level though as well. So being new in sales, I think and I still do this. It's still something that I work on is, okay, this person has more experience than me. This person has this over me. And so it's very easy to kind of cower down and maybe not challenge them. I read this amazing article that contradicted that by saying no matter how old you are, you should always act like you're 30 in your career. If you're in your 20s, that's what they said. If it was such a good article, now I got to find it. I should send it to you. But because there are a lot of people who are older than 30 who do have a lot of experience, so their head is like triple the size of what it should be. And they walk around acting like it. Or there's people who, like myself and some college grads who will come out of these great sales programs who have this knowledge, like we talked about earlier, and have so much creativity that they can teach. But they get so caught up in the fact, I'm only this old and this person has this amount of experience. So they don't share those things. And so I would try to always look at other people with a certain level of respect that you are equal, and don't be afraid to, share some of your opinions and challenge some of their things. And also for anyone who does have a lot of experience, know that you can learn from some of these millennials who we stereotype so much. There are things to learn from them as well.
Yeah. Okay. I always like to ask people about some book recommendations. And some people give 1, some people give 5. But, if you were to think of books that every sales leader needs to have on their shelf or on their desk, do you have any that come to mind?
Yes. So I'm actually looking at mine right now. So Never Split the Difference is a phenomenal book on negotiation. The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster, I really enjoyed that one. That's by Darren Hardy. I listened to that one on audio. That one was a really eye-opening one for me. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, phenomenal. And for all of the ladies, the book A Good Time to Be a Girl is a really, really good book. And that talks all about how the goal is to get 30% of CEOs or somewhere in the C-suite of Fortune 500 companies to be female, because right now it is all males. And so it's a good book to empower some of these women who tend to see a lot of males in roles around them and ones that they're aiming for. So those are the main books that come to my mind. I also really like another one for women is Rachel Hollis, Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing, are both really great books as well.
Interesting. And so let me go back to the first of the list. So the first 2 books that you mentioned, why are those so impactful?
I mean, all about negotiation. That's hard, right? Because for me personally, I found negotiation to be difficult. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, that I would tend to cower down a little bit and I'd be like, okay, sure, you have more experience. You're right. This one teaches you, I'm opening it up right now and I just have notes all over and highlighted on it. And it teaches you different techniques on negotiation and how impactful that can be when having a conversation, when they're working with someone who might have more experience than you, and just different techniques. It just gives you, my favorite types of books are the ones that give you actionable insights. So where you can close it or finish a chapter and say, okay, I'm going to try that tomorrow and see how it goes. And that's what this book does. The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster, I read this one when I first started sales. And a big part of the reason why I read this is because in sales, depending on what business you're with, you are kind of an entrepreneur. At least at Henry Schein, you are out there doing your thing on your own. People are not really micromanaging you. And that was difficult for me, from someone who was on a schedule constantly, to, okay, here's your territory, run it how you desire, just hit these numbers. And I'm like, what? Like, how do I do that? And so this was a great book to give you some different insights. It's mostly about how to start your own business, but a lot of the tips that were given in here could also apply to someone who is kind of on their own in a sales position. And so that was another great book just for how to be confident in yourself and in the direction that you want to go. That was really great. And then 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. My mentor suggested that one to me. I have not read the entire thing. I need to read the entire thing. I'm going to be honest. It's a little bit dry, but dang, is it good. And we both, him and I, like, he'll quote certain parts of it to me often. So like I said, it's dry. So be ready if anyone reads it, but it's a really good book.
Good. Yeah, that's kind of a staple. And actually, final thought, and then I'll shut up, I guess. But there are a few books that if you are dealing with professionals that are in certain age ranges that they expect you to have read. So if you're dealing with a professional that's over the age of, let's say, 50, they expect that you've read The 7 Habits.
Uh-huh.
They don't know a professional that hasn't read The 7 Habits.
Yeah.
Many of them expect you to have read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I've heard that one too. And like spin selling.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And, so of all my joking about being able to build rapport because I don't like football, well, these are alternative ways to build rapport, right? You find out, what did they read when they were starting their careers?
Yeah.
What were the staple things that, that they were exposed to that they just assume everybody knows, but maybe people your age don't know because they stopped requiring that book in MBA programs or whatever.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Because I will tell you, I think everyone who is on the leadership team and who is above me they've all made comments about certain books, like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Also, I know another one, Start With Why.
Yep.
That's another really popular one too.
Is that a Simon Sinek book?
Yes, it is. Yep. So that's a good point that you're right. There are a lot of people in a certain age range where it's like, well, you should have read it. Like you just got to read it. It's part of it.
How do you know how to be a professional if you haven't read this book? It's so fundamental,
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Well, good. I got my book recommendations, so I'm happy. Is there anything else that you would like to cap this conversation off with?
I will just say that I eventually would like for us to schedule something so we can turn the tables a little bit, because I heard all about your sales experience on your last episode, which was amazing. You had your boss, was it Tony or Toby?
Tony.
Yes. Was like, can you come in right now and just start calling? And you're like, sure. Yeah, I'll just go in right now. And how you were supposed to wrap up at 9 and it was like 8:55. Finally, someone was like, yeah, like I'm interested in learning more. And you're like, wait, what? Like people are interested in hearing more about this? Like this is great. And I absolutely love that episode that you did. So I would love for us to schedule a time where we can turn the table and I can ask you some of these questions. But I really do appreciate, that Pat made this connection between us and that we were able to have this conversation. I absolutely love talking about this kind of stuff and also encouraging students to know that sales is probably not what you're thinking it is in your mind, big time. And that also I think it honestly is in the entrepreneurial roller coaster where it talks about how to become an expert at something. It takes 10,000 hours. You're not going to be perfect right away. And so this was a really great conversation. I'm so glad that I got to chat with you. And again, we're going to turn the tables, okay? Because I want to interview you.
Hey, I'm all in. That's it for this interview. I hope you got something valuable out of it. Of course, if you did, be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast on whatever app you use to listen. Also, share this with your colleagues and friends, and let's continue to have a deeper discussion on all things related to selling and sales leadership. See you next time in the Sales Lab.